Snow drove sideways across the Wyoming plains, a white curtain swallowing the world, but Lost Pine Ranch burned bright with lanterns, laughter, and the smell of roasted meat. Christmas Eve had turned the long dining hall into a warm, golden refuge, fire snapping, whiskey flowing, men shouting over the fiddle tune one of the Cowboys scratched out on a battered violin. Inside was mirth, comfort, and the kind of loud holiday cheer only men who had worked through bitter winters could appreciate. Outside was hunger. The blizzard howled against the shutters as the front door creaked open, letting in a blast of cold so sharp it silenced the room. A woman stood in the doorway, barefoot, draped in rags stiff with ice, hair frozen against her cheeks. In her trembling hands she held an empty tin bowl, the metal blue with cold. She didn't shake from the storm. She shook from starvation, or something far deeper. Caleb Holt pushed through his men and planted himself in the doorway, blocking the woman from entering. His voice was rough with whiskey and arrogance. "You're a little far from town, miss," he said. "We ain't running a charity." The woman lifted her eyes, dark, hollow, endless. "I only want what you owe." Caleb's jaw tightened. The men behind him chuckled nervously, thinking this was some kind of rambling beggar's madness. But Caleb froze as if struck by lightning, color draining from his face. The fiddle fell silent. Even the fire seemed to hush. "What I owe," he whispered more to himself than to her. 10 years ago, another blizzard, another frozen figure, another woman, pregnant, terrified, begging him not to leave her, begging him to stay loyal, begging him not to take the deed to the ranch and run off with the money he'd stolen. Her hands clutched at his coat, pleading. He remembered prying her fingers loose one by one. He remembered walking away. Men used to say they heard her cries echo across the snow long after she died. Now only the wind usually spoke. Tonight it spoke with her voice. The woman in the doorway, ragged, starving, impossibly alive, slowly raised the tin bowl to Caleb's chest height. Every cowboy leaned forward to see. Inside the bowl lay a tiny infant's hand, pink, perfect, preserved as if frozen moments after birth. Caleb stumbled backward so hard he knocked over a chair. His men laughed, until the first cowboy gagged. My throat!" He clawed at his neck as if invisible fingers were choking him. Another man dropped his turkey leg, watching it crumble to ash before it hit the floor. A third began coughing blood onto the holly decorations strung along the wall. Panic surged through the hall as the feast they'd been devouring turned to dust, to rot, to blackened scraps that smoked where they touched the table. Every Christmas bulb, strung around the pine tree, began dripping crimson, as though each tiny glass orb had been filled with warm blood. It streamed down the branches, soaking the gifts below. The lantern light flickered, then bled red. Caleb collapsed to his knees, gripping his forearms as the flesh sagged and sloughed like wet parchment. His skin peeled, his bones groaned beneath rotting muscle, and his voice broke into a howl that didn't sound entirely human. "What do you want from me?" he screamed. The barefoot woman did not answer. She only stepped backward into the storm, her form dissolving into the blowing snow, like a shadow unmade by wind. Her bowl, once empty, now brimmed with fresh, steaming hearts. Caleb crawled toward the door, but the moment her silhouette vanished, the heavy ranch door slammed shut with such force it cracked down the middle. The lock twisted itself from the inside, sealing the men in as lanterns burst one by one. No man from Lost Pine Ranch saw Christmas morning, but on quiet winter nights, travelers swear they see a faint barefoot figure drifting across the snowfields, tin bowl in hand, leaving no footprints. And behind her always the soft cry of an infant carried on the wind.